Welcome to Shout Out from the Pit, where I, the Old Rucker, the host and mouth, and Redbeard, the producer and brains, and the rest of the behind-the-scenes shout-out team pray you are having an outstanding American Day. I mentioned previously about the world losing a great patriot, Barry Brown, our guest from episode 60. If you knew Barry and want to say something about him for a tribute we're releasing in the future, hit up shoutoutfromthepit.com. And on the contact page, you can either write something we'll read on the show or record your thoughts and upload it on that page. Just follow the user-friendly instructions. Or you can leave a short message on our unmonitored voicemail at 501-613-8915. Hey, on behalf of Barry's family, we appreciate your kind thoughts and words in advance. So, as difficult as it is, I need to move along. Heads up, and thanks to Redbeard, Shoutout's new look is getting really close to meeting you. And thanks to a donor who insists on maintaining anonymity, Redbeard is preparing to launch a mini merch store with shirts and tumblers, so stay tuned. And for our new listeners, everything you want to know about our mission and purpose is at shoutoutfromthepit.com. All right, wow, what a lineup we have for July, kicking off with a Freedom Salute tribute, then the Libby D story, Are You a Horse or a Donkey? Followed by Micah's story, Boarding, Clean, and Sober. And towards the end of July, we're launching our sponsorship panel series. Believe the Old Rucker, you don't want to miss these episodes or any of our episodes. So be sure to sign up at shoutoutfromthepit.com, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you listen to the show. Like, join, and share the hope and inspiration with the masses. You'll get Diane's missives full of awesome tools and encouragement, regular insights from the Shoutout team, and episodes designed to edutain as you trudge the road to happy destiny. And as always, it's for free and for fun. You know I'm the mouth, the easy part of the podcast, but I'm not very savvy with the whole like and share thing. I was schooled that when you like and share the show, it actually moves up somehow in the viewing on your streaming service or social media outlets. So other folks learn about Shout Out from the Pit. We don't advertise or market the show, and the audience we have is mostly via word of mouth. And we don't take you for granted. We know time is precious, your time. There are tons of podcasts out there, and we strive to make this show worth your time. So keep sending in your suggestions on how we can improve your show, The People Show. And on behalf of the Shoutout team, we thank you for your support and humbly request that you like, follow, and share with the masses. Thank you. All right. Our returning guest, actually our very first guest from episode 2, Broken and Blue, is Josh the Bear Slayer. Josh and I became friends close to 10 years ago, and in this episode, we reminisce our travels and sober journeys and Josh's latest bear escapade in this episode we're calling Josh the Bear Slayer. So, humble reminder that these raw and uncensored recovery episodes are about real people with real struggles and real solutions. And now, on with the show, launching in 3, 2. All right. Yum. Woo. All right. Shout out, folks. It's Bob the Old Rucker coming at you raw and uncensored. And as always, only God knows what's going to happen on this show. Welcome to Shout Out from the Pit, where the host needs therapy, but the guests are awesome. I'm the host, and Redbeard, my friend, partner, and producer, is the brains behind the scenes. Joining us today is returning tribe member Josh, and the crowd screams. Josh, give us a shout out.
Hey, everybody.
Gosh.
Good to be here.
You know, I'm thinking maybe I could apply for a job as a circus barker.
Yeah. Probably could.
So much for my
or
anonymity.
UFC announcer. Or...
Oh, UFC announcer. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Bite him in the neck. No, okay. Oh, God bless. All right. So, hey, before we get started, I just want to throw out some random facts here because we might have new listeners. You never know. Josh helped us kick off this show. You were episode 2.
2. Yep.
It's like, wow. I mean, it's kind of funny when I think about it because, we had decided to do this show a few years ago. We bounced around doing some, I don't know, practice because none of us knew what the hell we were doing. Right.
Right.
And we call those the lost tapes because not only did I not know what I was doing, but I didn't know how to save that stuff. So I can't find it. It's gone. We had some great episodes. Remember Ben Mike, our Navajo friend?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gosh, that episode we did with him, if I could ever get him back over here from the reservation out there in Arizona, that would be a blast. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. Oh, no, he's in New Mexico.
Yeah, it'd be cool to hear his story. Yeah.
Especially when he goes into the Navajo language. Well, we don't know what he's saying, but he's talking to, fellow Navajos.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Memories.
I know. Yeah, I miss him.
Gosh. What was his line that he used most often was, okay, and something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He was a man of few words, that's for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
But when we did that one practice show with him, and I'm telling you guys this because you'll never hear it because I don't know what happened to it. But we were, a bunch of us were, sitting around talking. And he said, I said, hey, Mike, what's on your mind? I don't have anything. Just real, mellow-minded type of guy. But then later on, towards the end of the show, we were ready to wrap up. And I was like, Mike, if you were talking to fellow Navajoians or whatever you call that, what would you say? And remember, he just took off.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you saying? And man, he was enthusiastic. He was on it. And I'll never know what he actually said. All right. So maybe we should.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, I actually called him. It has been a few months, but I did invite him to come out and stay with us. And, he said, he said he was working this job and did it. And then he ended with, and something like that. But anyway, so here's just a coincidence. That recording you did was episode 2 in June of 2024. Here we are in episode 75.
Yeah.
In June of 2026, 2 years later.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just another one of those God things,
It is.
But in that distance, that 2 years, maybe we can just get caught up on where you are today. But I'm going to ask you a couple things. It's coming already.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So, but there was something that I wanted to reminisce with. I don't think we talked about on the show before, and if we did, I guess a audience indulge us. But remember, we were on. Was it the Ouachita Trail that we did this excursion? We got dropped off and
yeah.
And I kept getting all these ticks.
Yes.
And I couldn't understand why you didn't get a single one. And I was emptying that can. And then we got to this makeshift bridge, old concrete thing that was over the water. On I think it was the Ouachita Trail, right? OT?
It was definitely the Ouachita.
Yeah. And Danny didn't have any ticks on. Well, he wouldn't because I not spray him off, but he has that protection on him. And you didn't have any. And I'm pulling these off like crazy. And which one of us read the ingredients on my can? Was it me or you?
I think it was me, because I was we were using 2 different bug sprays.
Right.
And then I asked you something about what kind are you using, and then so we started reading the cans to see what, and yours said not for ticks and mosquitoes.
What purpose does this thing serve?
Who's ever heard of bug spray isn't used for ticks and mosquitoes?
God bless. That was funny. That was a funny event. But again, it was a great event, and we've done a lot of trips together. Of course, We've done plenty of backpacking. We got caught in the one storm where actually it was a Cartwright with us, and we were going through, that was the Eagle Rock Loop, and we were trying to beat the impending storm.
Mm-hmm.
And so the three of us
hiked out in the middle of the night.
That's right. That's right. And then when we saw that, this is coming, the three of us beat feet with Taz, his pit bull.
Yeah.
And then Danny, we got back to the excursion, my beast there before the storm hit. And I mean, with the three of us and the two dogs, man, we just fit comfortably as that thing was rocking in the storm. I mean, just good memories, man.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, the infamous one where we went up in the mountains, and that was in New Mexico. Was it the Guadalupe Mountains?
The Gila National Forest.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Gila. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Gila. Right. So we come out of there after our couple of days up in the mountains, and our phones are blowing up.
Yes.
Right. And, you're of course, you're law enforcement. So your command is like, hey, you need to get back here, for obvious reasons. And we're like, well, what's going on? I worked for the government at that time, and they were like, you need to shelter in place now or try to get back here before they shut the interstate. So I'm like, are we being attacked by aliens? Or like, no, it's COVID. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And then my sister, we talked to her because we're like, well, we're going to go up there and visit mom and sister anyway. And she says, do you remember what she said?
No, I don't remember.
Please get toilet paper.
Oh, the TP. Yes. The toilet paper. Yeah.
And we couldn't find any toilet paper from New Mexico to northern Arizona. There was none. Like it'd been raptured.
And they were selling it on like Amazon for like a pack of 4 would cost you about $70 to $90 or something like that.
That
it was
insane.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Good times, man. Good memories.
And it wasn't even the good toilet paper.
Right.
Like,
sandpaper.
Yeah. It was like the sandpaper type toilet paper. Yeah.
Man. Yeah. So, thanks audience for letting us reminisce.
Absolutely.
The actual show is to catch us up on, episode 2 was called Broken and Blue. You had just been promoted to sergeant.
Yeah.
And there was that's a really good, folks, if you got some time, man, go back and listen to Broken and Blue, because we really don't need to rehash, Josh's journey, but we do want to get caught up. But so to kick us off, you just told us a story here the other day, and I your story, and then the Reverend's story. He was in one of the first episodes too about his bear encounter. Yeah, you got to tell us. I'm going to pull back from the mic because I love that story. Okay, pull him back.
So just a few days ago, I was down in the woods. I was hog hunting. This was a nighttime hunt, something that I regularly do these days. And it was spur of the moment. I just decided to go. I had activity on the camera.
Josh, remember though, we had just left speaking together, and you said, I'm going home and going to bed.
Right.
The next thing I get is a text. Are you up? I got to tell you a story.
Yeah,
so you didn't go to bed. You go ahead.
I didn't go to bed. No, right. I didn't go to bed. And like I said, just spur of the moment. I was just like, and there was this big boar hog that that's been coming out. I really wanted to try to hunt it. And, so I just kind of like, I only got a few weeks left before, the summer gets here. So there was, a sense of urgency. I was like, I need to do this while I can. So I go down there. I get down there late. I mean, about 11 o'clock. And so I'm walking in pitch black. All I've got on is my little headlamp, and it's like a green light. So, and then I'm using a little thermal monocular just to see if there's anything out there. And then, but this small younger boar pig comes out as I'm walking in, and it's standing there in the middle of the lane. And so I went ahead and shot it, and it ran off. And but because it was still early in the night, I wanted to keep walking over to my stand and wait for the bigger pig to come out. So so I did. A couple hours later, the big boar comes out. And unfortunately, I didn't get to I didn't have enough time to shoot it because it got spooked and it ran off, and then it never came back.
Now we're talking about two boars that one of them probably, as you thought, and you've hunted enough, so I'm going to guess you're pretty accurate, was about 400 plus pounds. The smaller boar that you referred to in the beginning was probably about 150, 200 pounds.
Well, no,
just for perspective.
About divide that in half. Actually, it's the smaller one was probably less than 100 pounds, and then the bigger one was more like 250. But
I see where I'm confused.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes, I am. Yeah.
So, but anyway, but yes, very different sizes, and so the bigger board never came back, and I waited till about 4:00 in the morning.
Yes.
And I decided about that time, I was like, well, I'm ready to come out, and I'm going to go track the one that I shot. So I went and tracked it, followed the blood trail. I track it. I start dragging it out, but I was really pretty far into the brush, out off of the main trail, if you will. And so as I'm dragging it out, you have to remember this is still it's pitch black out there. There's no, all I got is my headlamp, and it's very, very easy, especially when you're in that kind of brush, to get disoriented in the dark. So I got a little disoriented, and I wasn't sure if I was going the right direction. So I went ahead and just to kind of save my energy, I put the pig down by a tree, and then I walked away probably maybe 15 feet at the most, and just to get my bearings. And once I realized, okay, I know where I'm at now, I turned around and walked back and to get the pig, and then the pig was gone.
Oh no! See, at this point, if this was a horror movie, we'd be screaming at the screen, "Run, run!" But not Josh, not Josh. Go ahead, buddy.
No, at this point, I was just feeling frustrated because I was like, to me, that's I was going to have meat to take home and put in the freezer, and then it's just gone. And now at this point, I'm just like kind of confused, not irritated just yet, but I'm just confused. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, where? I know I put this pig down there. I searched for a little while, probably a good hour, going back and forth, checking blood trails and drag marks and everything. And every time I'd keep coming back to the same spot where it would end. And I'm like, yes, this is where I put it.
So because I asked you this before, there was no doubt in your mind this pig was dead. Oh, absolutely. So there's no way it resurrected and moved off.
No, absolutely no way. In fact, no, it was absolutely dead. I mean, and I had shot it about 11 o'clock at night. By the time I came out to track it, it was like 4 a.m. So this pig it was definitely dead. And so yeah, I mean, it was just like, what is going on here? It felt eerie, a little bit eerie.
Eerie. That's an understatement. What before you, I'm sorry, I should have asked you this earlier. What possessed you? And look, you're like my brother, so I'm not diminishing your story or you, but what possessed you to stay? You knew something was up. You just used the word eerie.
I didn't want to give up because I was like, I've been down here all night. I spent all night hunting, and this is my reward. This is my kill. So I want to find my pig so I can go home. And
so cut bait and run wasn't even on your mind.
No.
Okay.
And I wasn't even thinking, I hadn't even gotten to that point where I thought, well, maybe something had snatched it, because I didn't hear anything come in.
That's right.
So I was just like, well, I don't know what's going on, but maybe I'm just losing my mind or something. And so I I do this for about an hour or so, and then it starts to get light out. But I'm just at this point, after about an hour, I'm getting pretty frustrated. So I kind of hit the pause button and said, okay, I just need to walk out, get out of here, get some water, get rehydrated, go back to my truck, get my truck. And I was going to put some more hog bait out anyway. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do all of that, kind of get, kind of rejuvenate, so to speak, rehydrate all that. And then maybe I'll search again when it's a little more daylight out, Okay. And so I go get the truck, get some water, get my bait of I keep them in buckets, like 5-gallon buckets. And so I'm walking back down the lane, and I've got a bucket in my left hand, and I'd already put my rifle away, and so all I had was my little pistol on my right side. And as I'm walking, it's still kind of halfway dark and halfway light out. So it's not the best light, but as I'm walking, first I don't see anything, and then next thing you know, I'm looking up, and there's this just monster of a bear, black bear, and it's just and I mean it's just black as night as far as it. I mean, it's silhouette. It's just huge, and definitely it was all of at least 400 pounds, if not, and I would say it was probably even bigger. He was just a massive boar, bear. And he was, and so he's bladed to me, but he's looking over at me, and he's just staring at me. So I stop, I freeze. And then of course I'm like, I need to get to my gun. And so I go to set the bucket down. And as I set the bucket down, the bear kind of keys in on my movement and realizes that I'm something like, I'm not just like a tree, I'm actually something that's living. And I guess you could say he looked at me like, oh, that's something I can kill.
And you have the bucket of food,
of the corn. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And what I didn't know was the day before he was actually in there, eating that. He was actually in there for like about an hour or so, that the afternoon before. And I found this out when I checked the cameras, but so he came out, I set the bucket down, and as I set the bucket down, he suddenly turns and faces me like head on.
No.
And he immediately starts running at me. He's charging me.
Oh my God.
And so all I can think to do, I guess you could just say the instincts kicked in. I drew my pistol, and I was just about to go ahead and raise my gun up to shoot him, because I was thinking if he doesn't stop, I don't have a choice, because I can't outrun this bear. There's no way I'm going to outrun this bear. And I had a long way to go to get back to my truck. So I'm not going to outrun him. And I was like,
armed with a pea shooter compared to a bear. It's a 40 caliber.
Yeah, it was a 40 caliber.
So against a human, you got a shot.
Yeah, not 400 plus pound bear.
No,
you're just going to make him more angry. But that's all I had. I mean, I had a knife, I had a big, fixed bladed knife on my left side, but that would have been more of a real last resort. But I was just about to shoot him, and then it was kind of one of those, I knew I was supposed to stand my ground, that you never run. If they charge you, you do not run. You always stand your ground. And so that's what I did. And then I yelled out, I just yelled out, "Hey, bear."
That's what came to your mind.
Yeah.
Hey, bear.
Well, yeah. Cause you watch enough nature shows and things like that. And it's like, I guess it just committed, I committed all that to memory, and so it was just what it just came to me to say it and yell it.
Gosh.
So I yelled out, "Hey, bear." And actually, it worked. He suddenly stopped. then he turned and then took off running. And I couldn't believe it because if it's hard to, I mean, yes, you think 400 pounds, but you don't really understand what a 400-pound bear is like until you actually see it with your own eyes.
Oh my God.
And when you see it in the wild, it's even more, just that much more intimidating. I mean, it was huge. And for that thing to run at you, I mean, those things can go probably 30, 35 miles an hour at full speed. I mean, but to see something that big running at you and knowing that
gosh,
it's potentially running at you because it sees you as food, it's just like that was, I've never experienced anything like that before. So,
man,
yeah. So,
when you told me that story, what really stuck out to me is you had only walked about 15 feet away from your prey, your kill, the pig.
Yeah.
And only to return seconds later. And, and when we talked about this before, I still can't get over thinking this. You never heard it come in. What if it had just bypassed the pig and come for you? You never would have saw it coming.
No, that's the thing. And yeah. And that's the thing is, I mean, when I saw that bear and I had, of course, a moment to kind of, gather my senses, just kind of that reality of, did that just really happen?
Right.
It was like, I didn't even hear that monster walking in when like literally it was within a split of second from me going from looking down that direction and nothing there to all of a sudden I look again and there he is. He's just there.
Amazing.
And I never heard him come in. So yeah. And so that's the kind of the height that you think that's the height of the story. But the real is the fact that it was blatantly obvious at that point that he had actually had come in and actually snatched, like he apparently had been watching me.
Wow.
And he evidently had snatched that pig while my back was turned and without me even hearing him or seeing him. And he snatched that pig. And I imagine that given his size compared to the pig, the pig was probably 80 to 100 pounds. I imagine he actually picked it up.
Oh, had to, right.
As he wasn't dragging it. And that's probably why I didn't hear it, but he actually picked it up and was carrying it. But the fact that I didn't hear him was just amazing, especially for something so big.
And to add to the visual, he didn't walk out like a human. He walked out, on four legs. He had to have been carrying that beast in his mouth.
Right. Yeah. That exactly. So
God bless.
It's, and you're right. Yeah. It's like, I mean, he could have been, there's no telling how long he had been there, how long he had been watching me. I imagine he was probably confused as to what he was seeing because I'm sure all he could see really was the head, I had my headlamp. And so he's just hearing a lot of noise in the brush and he's seeing that headlamp and I'm sure he was just confused as to what is that.
Oh.
So he probably didn't see me as prey, but the whole time he obviously was watching me.
Right.
And I imagine probably what brought him in was the fact that pig had been there for so long that it was probably, he probably smelled the blood.
Oh, they got a great scent.
They can
over a mile,
yes,
right?
They can smell blood from over a mile away. I mean, they're very acute. So yeah, he probably smelled the blood and had been coming in anyway to see what it was. And yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, Danny, you know this, I retired him a couple of years ago because of his age,
right?
But his entire life was, in the mountains with the Old Rucker. He's my trail dog. And I slept peacefully because he's awakened me many a times because of a disturbance that I never saw it, but he did. And he would, do that low growl. And that would wake me up. And sometimes I would see like a coon trying to get up in our tree and get the hanging food. But there were other times that I was just like, I wonder what it was. I mean, I wasn't worried because if he could wake me up, then I got my sidearm. but I never once thought about a bear until you shared not only this story, but you shared another story we'll have to tell another time. But just last year, there were 3 bear attacks, 1 fatal.
Yeah.
And I never gave any thought about running into a bear in the wild. Now that Danny's retired and I don't have a trail dog, I'm not doing any overnight. I won't, because I sleep in a hammock. Mm-hmm. You know what that means to a bear? Sandwich.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm going to pass on that. And, to help me with the visual, there's a movie called The Edge with Sir Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin.
Oh, yeah. Seen it.
And that whole movie is about them surviving a bear. Well, there's a plot, but that's, but
the bear stalks them through the whole movie. Yeah.
And Harold, I can't say his last name. I just looked this up. Perrineau was in the series Lost. He becomes a victim in this thing. And it's like just the way that bear got him. When you told this story, as I told you before, that scene went through my head and I thought, there is no way. Yeah. No way. Wow. Okay. Woo.
Yeah. No, it's it's you're right about the bear attack. I mean, there was 3 bear attacks last year in Arkansas, so it was kind of it was a surreal moment and then a reality check. It's like, you just, there's a lot out there, a lot of dangers out there. So you really got to be mindful of where you're at and kind of that head on a swivel kind of mentality, even out there in nature. So,
go ahead.
No, it's just kind of one of those, it's one of those things where it's kind of, I stand in awe of it, Mother Nature, but at the same time, it's like, it reminds you of how small you are, really, truly out there in the world, how small we are. But
well, I've got mad respect for you as a hunter. I still think it's more humane to get your meat from a grocery store. Gosh, there's people out there actually believe that, right? Yeah. But what I do have respect for you is you're not a trophy hunter per se. You actually harvest. By the way, we keep saying this. I've got an empty freezer. And then you text saying, "Hey, I've got,"
when I pulled in your driveway, I was like, you know what? I forgot to bring that because I was going to bring you some pig and some deer. Yeah.
Right. Well,
it's still there. It'll be there.
Well, you don't live far away. Maybe after this, I have to go, run some errands for the wife. Maybe I'll swing by. But anyway, we'll table that.
Yeah. So, let's table.
And welcome back to the show, Danny. He always parks himself near the guest. I mean, I wouldn't be offended, if I were a lesser man, but like when you came in the door today, man, he's just like, Uncle Josh. Love the dog. All right. So let me caveat to not just the hunting, but we had talked about our relationship, with, the God of our understanding and, our higher power. Many of us serve the same higher power, but we have different perspectives and outlooks, which is another reason I really love the tribe, because nobody's trying to, and I hope I'm not offending anybody, but, I stand my ground as a Christian, and I know that there are, again, not trying to offend anybody, but there are people out there that don't identify that I'm so open about accepting other people that don't, we hear this, you really should be, pounding it into people's heads that they need to do X, Y, Z, but we don't roll that way with the tribe. It's like we were, and I say this because I was raised recovery. My introduction to God was via AA, and I'm so glad because my introduction was, hey, we accept everybody on their terms. We don't apostolize or convict or judge anybody. So it is the group of men, which is very large now, that we hang with, have way different relationships and understandings of our higher power. You had shared that one of the things that brings you in connection with your, God, is your, not just the hunting. It's not all about the hunting. It is about being away. So I'm going to pull back a little bit, and maybe you could, share that as we had talked before on that subject.
Yeah, I mean, Ever since I was young, that is, I have always had a certain love or affinity, whatever, of nature. And, I didn't start out hunting at a young age. I came into that stuff later on in life. And it was, I didn't really start hunting until I got out of college. So prior to that, really the only thing I did was fishing, but I had always had kind of an affinity for nature. There was something about being out in nature that just put me in awe of the idea of creation and kind of the power of God or a higher power. And that's just where I've always been able to go and find, peace and serenity and kind of that just closeness to God kind of a thing. And I know a lot of people can relate to that in a lot of ways. But yeah, and I'm again, I say again, I'm for the first time, but I'm sure I'll say it again. But like you're saying, I'm not out to offend anyone. So this is not in any way, shape, or form a criticism of anyone who goes to a worship service or a church. It belongs to a congregation. I don't, but I just never felt connected to God in that way like other people do. And I never understood why. I just didn't. I felt disconnected actually. Whenever I would sit in church, and I grew up in church. My parents, I come from a family of Christians, but, so I was raised in church, and we went three times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday night. And I just never felt that connection. Yeah. I went through the motions because I knew that was what was expected of me, but I just truly in my heart never felt that connection. And so that just, I don't know, it didn't make me better. It didn't make me, better than anyone else or smarter necessarily. It didn't even necessarily mean I was right or they were wrong. It just, but I just couldn't find that connection. And so I just tended not to lean towards going to church as I grew older. And so, but when I kind of got into more opportunities to be in, to do things in nature as I grew older and had the means, to do things like hiking trips, anything outdoors, hunting, fishing, anything that connected me to nature. I just always found a peace in that. And so that peace in a way always connected me to God. If I was ever to pray a lot of time, like really pray, like I really needed that spiritual connection to God. Like I would say I was feeling a tremendous amount of joy in my life or a tremendous amount of grief in my life. And I needed to pray to God, then I usually would go out somewhere like, best example. Sometimes I'd go up to Pinnacle Mountain, and I'd climb Pinnacle. I remember reaching out. There was somebody. It was on a Sunday once, and I don't remember I don't remember exactly why, but I just remember I needed that day to try to find some peace and prayer, and so I went up to Pinnacle Mountain, and I was fortunate enough that there were not a lot of touristy people up there. It was in the morning time on a Sunday. So I was relatively alone up there. And, I remember just kind of looking out, and it was just a very beautiful day, serene day, perfect day. And I remember looking out at this one tree that was out by itself at the top of the mountain, and it just gave me some inspiration, and it gave me a connection with a higher power. And I remember it literally in that moment, as I'm seeing that, someone who I knew had texted me and said, "Hey, why aren't you in church right now?" or something like that. And
I am.
And so it was a little snooty of me. It was a little kind of a, well, yeah, yeah, I'll show you. But I mean, but I took a picture of that tree, and it was a perfect picture. And I wish I still had it today, but it was a picture of that tree and with the kind of the sunlight in the background, and it was a perfect picture. And then I sent it to that person, and I said, tell me which one of us is closer to God right now.
Oh,
and like I said, it was a little bit of a smart element, but it was, but I definitely felt closer to God in that moment and where I was than I did when I was, than I would have been in sitting in a building, with other people. I just, that's just the way I've always been. And I used to think that was, kind of what's the matter with me kind of a thing. Like, why can't I feel the way that other people feel?
Right. I get that.
Because, I would see other people in a service and they would be, they'd be worshiping and they felt, they appeared to be very connected and spiritually motivated in those moments of worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't feel that. And I always thought, well, what is wrong with me? Why can't I feel that way? And am I just one of those guys that doesn't have real faith? And
boy, I've been there.
I had a lot of doubt in my life about that. And so I don't know, the more that years have gone by, especially these past like 8-9 years.
Yeah.
In my journey with through sobriety and recovering from alcohol and in the program and finding, having that seed planted and kind of learning my faith, learning a new faith, so to speak, like actually finding a real faith in God and higher power. In doing that, in that journey, going back out in nature has kind of reaffirmed that it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. We all have our own journeys. We all have our own journeys in faith. And we can, just because you don't find faith in a way that other people find it, you may find it in some other way, but that's okay. I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to say is we all have our own journey when it comes to that. And that's okay. It's kind of like in the program when we talk about higher powers, you try to find a higher power of your understanding. And I guess that's really what I did was in this program, it kind of gave me that permission to find a power of my own understanding, a God of my own understanding. And that was the first time that I had kind of been given permission to do that. Mm-hmm. And so like today, I don't go through when I go out in nature and I do all those things and I feel connected to God in a way, I don't feel guilty about that anymore. Right. I feel good about that. And then I also don't feel quite as cynical as I once was because, I, like a lot of things in life, I became cynical about people in church. And that was why, because it was like, they have faith and I don't. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't stand that.
That makes sense.
So,
yeah. So I remember as a youth, for, a myriad of reasons, we end up in church somewhere along the line. And I would see people that were, in my estimation, I guess I would say they were connected to God. But I really didn't feel that, and I identify with what you said because I kind of felt like I was left out. And then that actually led me one day to think, well, I must be destined for hell, because I'm not feeling it like they, and I hate to say this and admit it out loud, but we're all uncensored. So, and what do you call it? Genuine, transparent. Mm-hmm. So I tried to do some of the things, mimic the things that I saw other people doing, raising hands and whatever. And that made me feel like an absolute phony. So when I got into recovery, I had heard essentially for the first time that a relationship with God isn't a routine of going to a building It's more than that, meaning it's not discounting going to a building, not going to church. Or I want to reiterate, building. It's not going to be in a crowd of people. That's not what the relationship is. That's a part of the relationship. The relationship is an individual's spiritual connection to the God of their understanding. Now, that took a while to wrap my brain around, too, because I hadn't really heard it before. You kind of, when you hear something for the first time, you're trying to wrap your brain around it a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And when I'm sure that there were miracles before I got, into a recovery that I just didn't recognize as miracles. Maybe I saw them as coincidences. But coming into recovery and then seeing, spiritual experiences, and identifying them more as that can't be a coincidence. There's no way that could have happened. Then I started seeing that more as a God thing, but that's when people were pointing out to me, that's kind of, Bob, what you're seeing in a spiritual sense. Mm-hmm. And it started to help me grow. So I didn't have any problems going to church, but to be honest with you, I've never become a member of a church. I never even patched into motorcycle groups I've ridden with a lot of groups, but I could never find myself being a member of, and that's a whole different concept or story or whatever. But on this direction I'm going now, I'm going to shoot something at you and see where this goes. Okay. All right. So, let me just say a couple things here and then I'm going to flick the bugger towards you. Words you associate with God. In other words, how do you say God without saying God?
Father, Savior. I guess you could say all-knowing, all powerful. Those are the things that come to mind, and those are the things that, like I described, when I see in the power of creation. Mm-hmm. That's why I think I find that connection is all powerful, all-knowing.
Yeah.
I see him as kind of that like the fatherly figure that guides me. He guides me through life, and so those are the things I think of, yeah.
So, of course, we didn't do a pre-show chat on that because it just came to me while you were sharing there. But what I was thinking of, if I hadn't heard the word God before, and just God, hadn't heard it before, I would think of, how do I feel spiritually connected to a creator? And what are expectations of me, and what are my expectations of my creator, and what I'm thinking peace, and like redemption, because, you and I only are separated by, a handful of months in our recovery journeys. Right. And so we've kind of been growing together through this thing, and, being able to see what we've seen, do what we've done, and become very different persons than we were when we came in. And I see that because, before recovery, if somebody would have crossed words with me, it's a fight or flight, Yeah. But now when I run into crosswords and you as a law enforcement officer, good night. Yeah. You run into this a lot more than anybody that normally, right? So anytime I'm in a situation that is uncomfortable, controversial, whatever, man, I immediately now, and it took a while to get there, but I immediately just go to my base and just like, hey, be peaceful, turn this over, situations in our lives that are uncomfortable. I'm like, hey, I have learned that I can turn this over to the God of my understanding, because he's going to be up all night tonight anyway. And why do I have to be in control of anything? Why do I got to feel that I've got to go in and solve anything, especially if I'm not equipped? So I'm able to pause, as we've learned, right? Yeah. And just say, hey, God, I need some direction, and like you really well put, we love nature. We are nature people, man. We're tree huggers, Second Amendment tree huggers, I guess you call us, right?
Yeah.
And I can get out there and just feel 100% at peace. And I remember, the first time I got sober, I lived in the suburbs of New York. And of course, there's people and cars everywhere. There's concrete everywhere. And I got introduced to the nature thing, right? So I would traipse up, and city people, kind of which I was, you could tell the difference as you're getting up into the mountains like the Adirondacks or the Catskills, what have you. Yeah. At the beginning of the trail, there's, evidence that people are there. And as you traipse more into the wilderness, the trash is less and less. I mean, unfortunately, people just don't pick up after themselves. But, Coke cans, wrappers, and then, of course, back in those days, we didn't have headphones and Sonys and stuff. They were all big boom boxes. Well, when people got tired of carrying their boom box, which can weigh as much as a backpack, that's when they stop. When the trash stops, that true nature begins, and just heading up deeper deeper into the wilderness, man, the serenity becomes real.
Yeah.
And like when you and I, and even some other guys, when we've gone up into nature, when we just separate to do like our meditation, and all you hear is nature. It's just, there's something that I never appreciated.
Yeah.
When I was, God bless those people that don't have the affliction of addictions, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's thousands, millions of them out there. They appreciate, they don't take it for granted. They've always been that way, but we discovered it.
Yeah.
And it's like and it's kind of funny when you think about it is, I've just discovered something in my later life that people have had since they were adolescents. And I'm telling them, man, isn't this great? And they're like, where you been, dude? It's always been here, man.
Yeah. Always been there. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, it's funny just because when you said that, I was thinking about that, just the idea of, cause I've heard it shared before, it's that's the thing is, cause it has always been there. And it's funny to see other people who discover it too.
Yeah.
And to see the enthusiasm that they get, it's not for everybody. And I think the percentage is kind of small compared, of people that really truly love to get out and in nature, but to see people discover it and realize just how much they like it, and for a lot of the same reasons, they're just like, man, I just never knew that this could be so much fun and so good for my my spirit, kind of a thing. That's pretty cool to watch people and just their enthusiasm when they start learning those things and discovering it for themselves. It's like, you can look at them and go, I know exactly what I know that look, I know that feeling exactly. So, yeah.
And some of us are, and again, no judgment here, but some of us are like you and I are minimalist. We'll boldly go when no intelligent human being would dare to go. Well, just like when we went to the Gila Mountains.
Yeah.
Or we didn't run anybody except those guys on horses in the beginning, right? Yeah. But otherwise, we were out there all by ourselves, and if something would have happened to us, we weren't. Once you cross that there's no cell phone connectivity, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, because we were on that dirt road for miles and miles and miles, and we were in the mountains. And you're right, there was nobody down there, no one. So we were truly alone. Yeah.
So there's folks like us, and then there's folks that are, glampers. Have you heard that term?
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of cracks me up, but I'm okay with that. Sure. I think a thought for folks, listening to the show, that it doesn't matter what level. You don't have to be a minimalist. I wasn't born one. I didn't become one until I got in sobriety.
Yeah.
And it was because I ran into somebody that turned me on the first trip I went on. I was addicted. But then there's other people we've taken on trips. They're like, well, when are we going to get back? I need a shower. And, when you go on these trips, forget about that. About that. Just make sure you take a bug spray that says good for ticks and mosquitoes, right?
Exactly.
Good night. But I would encourage anybody out there, whether you're in recovery like we are, or new, or whatever you are, you could just Google trails near you. It's amazing what technology does for us. And we are blessed to be in America that there are so many public trails.
Oh, yeah.
Golly. And, safety, well, that's another conversation, but I would encourage you to, find those. And then one of the things I like Danny and I have gone out thousands of times, just he and I, but I'm protected because he's my alert system. He's protected because once he alerts me, I'm armed. So we're good. I'm not going out by myself now because, he's retired until whatever. But when we go out together, and I'm saying this for y'all out there listening, find a buddy, and we call each other battle buddies, and get up there and then just, be far enough apart where you can hear each other, but then do your meditation. And, I talk about this remap all the time, right? Meditation's part of that. There is a spiritual connection in meditation, and it's made me so much more of a calm person because, like any other normal human being out there, unless you're a psychopath and anxieties don't bother you, I have things that bother me, and when I can get out there and just like, hey, spirit, man, roll me here, man. Mm-hmm. I need to be in touch. I need to get grounded. And then when I get back, I'm not saying I'm on this crazy spiritual high like I just came off some kind of retreat or something, but I feel, a little bit more relaxed until, and I put it on my calendar. Well, not so much anymore because of the, other things, and Danny, of course, being one of them. But I would always come back from a trip and plan my next one. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're fortunate, of course, you're here in the studio, but, I've got nature now as my backyard.
Yep.
So that helps me in my declining years because like Danny and I and Shannon, we'll just sit out there, watch the sun come up, sun go down, have our coffee, or she's a tea drinker. And of course, Danny's just looking at us waiting for a snack. So, but nature, man, I whatever the God is of your understanding, man, you will find more of a spiritual connection trying to get out into some kind of nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always start out small. That's the thing. That's the great thing about it, especially the trails here in Arkansas. You can always start out small, just do day hikes and see how you like that.
Yeah.
But if you start desiring where it's like, hey, I'd really like to get a little further away from people, the normal day crowd. But go with one or two friends, you can kind of grow into that. And most people do. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't start out where I was instantly, going on 3 or 4 day hikes. I mean, I would usually it'd be like a day hike, go up to Petit Jean and
oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful and it's great for day hiking. But you have trails anywhere from like 1 or 2 miles to 12 miles, but you'd easily get that done in a day. And I've done plenty of those. And it's just kind of one of those I grew into the whole, going into 3 or 4 day where we'd camp out, set up a hammock and we'd build our own fires and filter our own water and do the minimalist thing.
Right.
And it's just kind of one of those where it was like, I wanted to get a little further away from people, so I had to grow into it just like anything else. Yeah.
I use that, app, All Trails. It's free if you want to, start a subscription and whatever you want to do, whether cancel it after your trip or whatever. But how you can download grids and trails. Is there a particular app you use, or do you use All Trails?
Yeah, no, I use All Trails.
Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah. So, it's a green app. So if you go to the App Store and look up All Trails, but give that a shot. The last thing I want to talk about before we close is using our relationship with the higher power, going like through the steps. Are there any particular steps that stand out to you when the term? I mean, most of them are higher power related, but for you personally, are there any particular steps that you want to chat about how a higher power helps you with that step? Am I saying that right or asking it right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say one of the biggest hurdles for me when I was working the steps, and this isn't the only step that helped, as far as the spirituality, but one of the bigger steps was, step 6 and 7, became willing to, it's easy for us, when we're in the moment, that spiritual uplifting, motivation that, it's easy to talk the talk and say, spirituality and God and all these things. But sometimes when it comes down to, really, really showing God that we're willing, to turn it over to him and be accepting of his will and not our own, which is, for those of you in recovery, you understand that. But to be able to become truly willing to turn it over to a higher power, to like really say, God, I'm giving this up to you.
Yeah.
To really do that, and walk the walk. That is just something that for me personally, it was always a challenge. I could talk a big game and say, God, I'm, whatever I got to do. But then when it came down to it, I usually would always kind of go back to my old habits and my old whatevers. So I don't know. I think I know the first time that I did a step 6, and actually meant it and was like, okay, God, I really am. I'm done with all of this, these defects of character. I'm done with living the way I lived. I'm done with half measures. I don't want these burdens in my life anymore. I want to live the way you want me to live today.
Yeah.
And turn it over when I really meant it. And I started to see those changes in my life. It was just kind of one of those where it's like, okay, I really see how this thing is starting to work,
Yeah.
and I was only halfway through the steps, but it was like, just like they say in the book, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through.
Right.
I really was. Once it's like God knew my heart. He knew when I was really, truly ready, and he was just waiting for it.
Yeah.
That's something I've seen through my life is like, when I look back, I see God working many times in my life when I didn't even really realize it, but it was like God being patient with me and saying, I got you. You don't know I got you, but I got you. And I'm going to let you figure it out, on your own. And then when you're ready to see it, then you'll see it. But like step 10, step 11, and step 12, especially, step 10, of course, is, our kind of reflects on our, well, help me out with that one. I'm trying to.
The last 3 steps are like we call the maintenance steps. And
they're maintenance steps, yeah.
Step 10 is kind of like the evaluation of the day.
Right, the daily inventory. Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. Now I'm back on track. Step 10 is more of the daily inventory, and I've done that probably more than I ever did in my life. I never gave myself a daily inventory, but it's amazing the lessons you learn when you do that and you practice it. And then it's like, it's just kind of one of those, you almost feel like God's talking to you and he says, hey, you might say, I think I had a pretty good day. And then God says, well, now hold on a minute, and you start thinking about some of those other things like, hey, how you may have reacted to a situation.
Oh my.
And you're like, well, I probably could have handled that better. And I don't know, whenever I'm doing that by myself, I almost feel like I'm having a conversation with God. Like God's telling me, hey, don't forget about this. You probably could have handled that better. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. But then I get into the step 11, which is, to me, that's a super powerful step when it comes to the maintenance, which is prayer and meditation.
Right.
I didn't do a lot of that. But I had to grow into that in this program.
Right.
I had to grow into that because my prayers were they were the foxhole prayers, most of my life. And, I didn't start saying the prayers, at least that the program taught me to say, which is more not praying for myself. It's more praying for me to be, a tool for God. And being able to get out of self and do his will and not my own. And it's amazing how God uses you And you start to see how God actually uses you when you actually pray for the right things. You know,
Yeah.
you actually say, God, use me for your good. And get me out of get me out of self and get me into your will and out of my own. You start to see the opportunities where God says, okay, let's do it. And the opportunities to help the helpless and to reach out to the suffering. And of course, that's where you get into step 12. And I think that step 12, being able to carry the message, I think that is one of those things, especially when you see people when they're like, say, in a recovery center or a treatment center, and they're struggling, they just want to find the solution to their addiction, they're literally listening intently on your story, and then they come up to you later and say, really, like, thank you for being here. And then if you're blessed, and a lot of times we are, where people, and you were telling me about that, how someone came up to you, recently, that from the jails, just where someone finds you and remembers you on the street.
Oh yeah.
And says, you may not remember me, but
right.
And then you find out it's like, well, oh, they're a friend of Bill's, and you're like, oh yeah, that's awesome. To the point that you don't even recognize them. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, you're not the same person you were when I saw you at that place. And look at you, and it's just like, oh, and then you start to see that connection. It's like, yeah, God really can work in my life and use me as a tool for good. Use me to spread the message and
what a good feeling.
To give back, like it says, give back as we've been freely given. It's amazing. I don't know. Those 4 steps are the ones that most of the time help me the most today. Yeah. Step 6, because there's always defects of character. I'm always going to have some defects. And so to be able to be able to be able to have that faith to say, God, I really just don't want to have this anymore. Right. I need to give it up because it's not doing me any good and it's not doing anyone else any good. It's pretty powerful because I know it works. Yeah. And then to be able to work those maintenance steps to, work on my daily spiritual fitness, so to speak. It just, I don't know. It just helps me day to day to realize that, there really is a God and a higher power, and it's working in my life, and that God has the power to work in other people's lives. So I don't know. That's what I've gotten out of this program. It's in so many ways is just being able to have a faith that I can't say that I had in those years when I was drinking. So, yeah.
Yeah, good words. Thinking of the steps, and along the lines of what you said there, of course, being introduced to a 12-step program has become kind of satirical because of, a lot of sitcoms and movies, whatever, and they diminish, the 12-step idea. And so, on the outside looking in, we kind of laugh, and, okay, that's, it's a big joke. Until, we get so desperate that we give it a shot, give it a try, right? Yeah. And of course, thank God it's an anonymous program, because frankly, I don't want anybody to know, that I'm in a 12-step program, right? I mean, it's nothing to brag about. I mean, we're there for a reason. Something we've done, or lots of things we've done, bring us to our knees, and we got, what's the book say? We get locked up, covered up, or sobered up.
Yeah.
And so, being introduced like the first step, which is just, frankly, it's just frank. Is your life unmanageable? Are you powerless? Obviously, look where I'm at. Yeah. Look what I've done. And okay, then fast forward. I'm not by any means diminishing any of the steps. They're in an order for a reason. But to caveat on, your thoughts of step 6 and 7. The actual big book and the meat of it is the first 164 pages. And after that, there are historical stories, which are fabulous to read, especially when you look at the language difference in 100 years, the way that because we kind of struggle reading it, trying to almost translate English to English, because we don't talk that way now. And so, but their problems were the same as ours. So that's the back part of the book. Mm-hmm. But the first 164 pages are really discussing, there's a solution into action, yada, yada, the family, the agnostic, all those great chapters. And they discuss the 12 steps, but not really in depth. They kind of gloss over, if anything, step 6 and 7. Mm-hmm. And so since they gloss over it, and because I'm not a very good student, especially my first round of sobriety, I really didn't get into the boring book. And I say that because I don't feel that way anymore. But at one time I thought the traditions and the step, 12 traditions, 12 steps. Oh, I can't even believe I just drew a blank. Can you believe that? I didn't find that book intriguing. So I really, just kind of nodded north and south that I'm working them, almost like I'm going to school to get a diploma or whatever. So that I think was a huge problem because steps 6 and 7 are exactly what you said. I need to deal with these character defects. I can't do it on my own because they're ingrained in the core of my hard drive. And it's going to take a supernatural intervention for me to stop whatever those character defects are. And we could do a whole episode on just that.
Oh, yeah.
And even though, it describes it more in the 12 traditions, 12 steps, what really helped was the book study that we did on Drop the Rock. Yeah. And so that was like the character defect humility steps, which really greatly helped me. Fast forward to step 10 that you brought up. Mm-hmm. Another book by I think there's the same authors, wrote The Ripple Effect.
Yeah.
And, Lieutenant Dan out of the tribe had given me a copy of it because I hadn't heard of it. And so we did a study on that. And it was like, wow, this is really good stuff. But I think one of the things I really like about that step, especially in married couples, they say, don't go to bed angry. Well, before recovery, we wouldn't talk for lengthy periods. And anybody on the outside looking in would go, what a couple of kids.
Yeah.
Children, playground antics, be adults. It's easy to say be an adult until you're in that situation, right?
Exactly.
And then you read something like that, and we use a word, convicted, not convicted like you're going to, the judge just passed sentence. Convicted as something is renting space in my head. My higher power is telling me, because I'm doing a step 10, if I really want to work this journey, right, work this program, it's telling me you were wrong. Own it. This is your part in this theater play with your wife. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear her part. I want my higher power to take my side and point fingers at her, but that's not how it works because he wants me to be a better man.
Yeah. So
I can't allow that I can't go to bed with that. So I have to go and exercise humility and say, hey, this is my part in this. Now what's yours? No, I'm kidding. That last part's BS, right? Well, team BS, Bob and Shannon. So I've got to be the bigger man. And well, lo and behold, we're still married and we have a better relationship now than we did back in the day. And we don't play the childhood or what do you say, playground antics anymore. Yeah. Your steps 11 and 12 resonate and so real, especially 12, because I was still the character defect of Whiffam. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
I was still kind of carrying that, hey, I'm going to go out and speak and I hope that you all give me a standing ovation. I mean, that sounds so ridiculous, but yet that's a character defect for me because I want to be seen. I wasn't seen, as a child with fascia issues. So now I want to be seen. So I'm a worse alcoholic than you. And I reflect back to that guy and think, what a fool. But also, if I went out and I did something for some suffering alcoholic, I wanted everybody to know about it. Look at how good Bob is let's go pat Bob on the head.
That pat.
And even take it even further, if to steal the old character defect antics, right? Quid pro quo. I did this for you. Now I expect you. Yeah, you owe me, right?
Yeah.
So I had to grow, and I didn't get it overnight. Obviously, doing the steps linear one time is like somebody saying, "Yeah, I read the big book, man. I read it, didn't work for me." Or I don't know how many times I've heard this.
We've heard that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. This one, I read the Bible. I'm still an atheist. I'm like, well, you can be an atheist all day long. It's not my business, but why? What makes you think that you're an expert because you read it one time? I read that Bible just about every day, just about every day. And I still look at stuff just like I do read the big book. In fact, the other day we were doing a study. You were with me when we did a big book study. And I don't remember what it was now because it just popped up. Something I saw, I was like, how many times, Josh, have we read this and it just resonated with me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So working the steps linear the first time, awesome. But then, working them nonlinear. And what does that mean? Well, each step has a representation. And as we live our life, something is going to invariably, because we continue to do, step studies, something's going to pop in and say, Bob, this applies to you right now. Listen to your, and I think that's the higher power whispering in my ear. Hey, stop, hold on a sec. I need you to go back and look at this a little more. And I'm okay with that. I want to be a better person. Look, I'm still married. My wife actually likes me today. I've got quality friends, and I value you as one of the tribe circle that we talk about. I didn't have any of that stuff back in the day. So if I have to submit myself to these 12 steps and lower my pride to be a better person, that's not only somebody that can like other people, but that other people like me, that's totally worth it. I'm down with that, right?
Yeah.
There was something else I was going to say on that, but I can't remember what it is. Maybe because Old Rucker is really my name. Old. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to caveat of what you're saying. I mean, I just, I can definitely relate with the doing things, kind of for your own benefit or recognition. And, man, that's the thing about, that's kind of the power in the steps is it teaches you what real humility is, and there's that kind of that it teaches you about doing things, what it means to do things unconditionally. And, you can call it love, whatever, but, but just being able to do things unconditionally without any thought of reward, recognition or whatever. And then of course people will say, well, what's in it for you? Well, for people like us, it's always been about, well, we get to stay sober, that's the benefit. There's blessings. It's kind of one of those, by default, and it's a good default, but you get blessings or rewards, so to speak, that you wouldn't have even thought you would get as a result of doing this thing and being able to do those unconditional acts of love, to our fellow man, and just humbling ourselves before a higher power to say, hey, you know what, you are definitely know more than I do about this thing called life. And, I tried it and I found it wanting. I failed at it many and many times by myself. So I know you're better at this than me. So you do it. You tell me what to do, kind of a thing. I'm turning my will and my life over to you. You do it. You just tell me what direction I need to go, who I need to help, and how I can help them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get all these rewards as a byproduct, as a default, so to speak, to where it's like, I get these rewards and I didn't even know these things were possible. And I'm not talking about material goods. I'm talking about the friendships, the fellowship. Friendships that are forever, and truly, lasting, and fellowship that just, it's almost undescribable because it's exactly like the book says, like people who've survived, people from a ship that have survived whatever they say, a crash or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the point being is that it's almost like people we've all survived something that was just, brought us down to our lowest point in our lives. Yeah. And we all have survived that by being there for one another. Yeah. So it's like we have a connection that a lot of people don't have. So that is an unbelievable miracle and blessing, for us. And we get that as a result of doing the steps. We get that as a result of being doing that step 12, especially, just being able to, carry the message and just do things unconditionally without thought of self or reward, and I think that's what it means is like, hey, you're going to get blessings. It's just the blessings that are long lasting. They last forever, not those minimal, blessings that, your ego and pride,
stroke it.
Yeah. I don't need that. I don't need that today. So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking stages. So I'll use maybe a parallel type of analogy. But driving in New York, you can drive anywhere now. And we get frustrated with other drivers. They're going too slow. They're going too fast. They're not using the turn signals. They're jacking us, as we would say in New York. They cut you off, So we retaliate because we're allowed to stand our ground. That's how I was raised. You stand your ground. Yeah. Somebody throws hands, you throw hands. Okay, so I get all that. That's, we're tough guys. We got to step up and, set this image of, being all that in a bag of chips or whatever. So then we come into this program where we're taught almost just the exact opposite, but with definitions. So, you don't always have to stand your ground. What? Yes, of course I do. Think about that. If somebody's not throwing hands, and they're being a jerk, what makes you feel like that you got to fight fire with fire? I mean, really, what's the benefit in that? All that never goes anywhere good. It just escalates where, literally somebody can go to the morgue and somebody can go to the hospital. Yeah. So then, I practice and I mean this, I practice showing grace because I don't know how to show grace. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to show mercy. And it's like for those of you that have trained in a dojo, you get this. There is no mercy. You take your opponent down. For you combatants that have been out in the field, there is no mercy. You take the enemy down. There's a place for that, but some of us are on high alert all the time. Yeah, and in recovery, when we learn about this relationship and this spiritual awakening, that also includes practicing showing grace and not being on high alert all the time. And now I've gotten to the point where, people get in front of me, they don't use their signals. People get in front of me and, they slow down. I don't get that. For the life, man, you can be on a highway and for some reason, somebody's behind you going, I have got to get in front of this guy. Yeah. And then I think they realize, there's the popo could be out there. Josh might be out there somewhere. Yeah. So now I got to slow down. Like, okay, what, and where that used to make me crazy, it's like, you know what?
Just let them by.
Let them by. Just whatever. Just let it go. And people confuse, the scripture, turn the other cheek. I can run across paths with somebody that's having a bad day, and I just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't have to stand my ground. All I got to do is just walk away. Yeah. But the old me would have been like, you talking to me, fool? And now we're both standing in front of the judge, and I'm hoping I get released because I didn't throw hands first. Yeah. Just stupid stuff. And now I can just walk away. However, I got to make that distinction. If somebody wants to take it to a level that's physical, well, that's a completely different showing of grace.
Yeah, I know what you mean. No, in my job over the years, I never really got as much of a thrill about like adrenaline stuff. And this is kind of along with what you're saying, but it made me think of this. I never was a huge confrontational person, fighter, whatever. And so, but that didn't mean, that didn't mean that if things had to be handled a certain way, that they wouldn't get handled that way.
Yeah, sure.
If a certain level of physical force had to be applied to make things safe for me or for some, my coworkers or for the general public.
Right.
to even for the person that I might be using that force against, to keep them from getting hurt. I wasn't afraid to do that. But those are, I tell you, those things just, they're like, it was like, well, that's just what we do, as far as that's the job. And it didn't mean a whole, like, there's always things you remember, like the stories, of certain things in your career. But I'm getting, the point I'm getting to is like, but the more meaningful things in my career was the kind of the whole, turn the other cheek. Like there's, it doesn't, like you said, people get that confused of you always have to turn the other cheek, if you're faced with some kind of real, threat to your safety. I don't think that, I never thought that to be the case. I always thought of it as, just don't lose sight of like those opportunities. Don't let the world make you, bitter and cold to where you lose sight of those opportunities, because there'll be plenty of opportunities to do good as opposed to those opportunities where you have to handle business.
Right.
And so, I honestly, in my career, I've always probably remembered and found, I've had better memories in those moments where, I've been able to have an opportunity to help someone and didn't say anything to anyone about it. And like I've had those opportunities and it could have been anything from just giving somebody a ride to putting a couple dollars in their pocket so they could go and get something to eat to, just talking to them for a little, listening to them for a few minutes because you could tell they were lonely and just wanted to talk to someone. Those little things, it's like, I can remember those things through my career and they actually serve as reminders, just kind of like, well, it wasn't all that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I did all these things, through my career, saying a lot of bad things, but it wasn't all that bad. There was definitely moments where maybe God was working in my life and I didn't even know it. And, kind of that he gave me an opportunity to be a good person, to be a truly humble person, to let go, to like let my guard down, so to speak, turn the other cheek, so to speak, and say, hey, it's okay. You're okay. You can go help this person. You can let your guard down for 5 minutes and go help this person. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I've found those moments to be more meaningful in my life and in my career. I don't know if that was along with what you were trying to say, but
sure.
But I just, you made me think of that when you were saying that. It's like, we're always on the guard. We're always on our guard thinking we got to fight everyone and everything. And I get that, especially in a law enforcement capacity or even military. It's like, but man, I mean, I just have always, the memories that I hold on to now today, those are the memories I hold on to. The other stuff, they might make for a good book, some of those wild and crazy stories, but it's not really the ones that I hold and share with other people for the most part. It's more of the people, when someone comes up to me and says, hey, I don't know if you remember me or not, but, you helped me once. And you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, oh, wow. No, I don't remember, but I'm glad I did.
Oh, I love stories like that.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've had people come up and they're like, you don't remember me. And I'm like, no. And
did I cuff you? Where are we starting with this?
And,
right.
I've had people do that and they remember my name even. Like they'll even remember my first name. I had a woman do that once. She came up to me and I didn't remember her. And she just walked up and she called me by my first name. And I was like, and I was in uniform and she remembered me and I don't remember her.
Oh, wow.
But evidently I helped her because she walked up to me and said, Josh. And I looked and I turned and I said, yes, can I help you? And she just kind of looked at me for a second. And I guess she decided not to tell me who she was, but she said, I just wanted to say thank you. And she walked away. And I was completely baffled. And I've had a lot of people do that in my career, but that was one I was like, well, that was weird. And like a big mystery at the same time. I was like, man, I wish I knew who she was.
Yeah.
And I wish I knew her story because I'd like to know how I helped her.
Yeah.
But she remembered me, and she remembered me enough she knew my first name, but somehow I helped her.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, well, you're welcome. I don't know what I did, but okay.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So,
there's that saying that we're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Okay. If we take that to a practical level, when I meet people today, now listen, I exercise prudence. I'm not going to put myself in a position like being in a dark alley in the Bronx. I'm setting myself up for failure. But if I'm in public and, somebody cross paths with me, I try not to judge. I say try. Remember, I'm still human, but the spirit in me says, hey, back off. Try not to judge a book by its cover, right? And and I treat everybody with grace. They all get 100%. So I lead with, what we call the fruits of the spirit, kind, gentle, grace, love. And until somebody gives me a reason otherwise. But now that's just the opposite of how I used to be. I was always on high alert and cautious. Yeah. What do you want from me? What are you trying to do? Or it was just... And I wasn't free.
Yep.
I didn't feel free.
Yeah.
And now the way I feel, I don't care where I go or what I do. Everybody's just a child of God, right? I treat everybody the same. Some of them know they're a child of God. Some don't, but I treat them all the same.
Yeah.
Until they give me a reason otherwise. And I don't put myself in a position to test this either. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts? Well, actually, let me say something else and then see if you have any closing thoughts.
Okay.
We refer to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and other related literature regularly on this show. And I've said what I'm about to say before, and I say it to maybe new listeners. Don't get hung up thinking this is about getting over alcoholism. It is about getting over ism. We have a lot of isms in our life. Alcohol is just a symptom to the real ism, and whatever that might be. We are in this recovery program to become more aware, to become more awake, to learn more about living life on life's terms. My evidence that supports that is the 12 Steps, the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, written in 1939. My mom got her hands on, my natural mother, she got her hands on it, I think in the 60s or 70s. Really honest, I couldn't remember, but I have her original book that she gave to me. And I couldn't understand, well, first of all, why'd you give it to me, Mom? But the reason she even had it was because she had a problem with what we know as Overeaters Anonymous. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have their own literature. So all they did was take the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and anywhere where it was alcohol, they replaced it with food. In her case, she would call it flour and sugar. I don't remember all the things that she said. But the rest of the book applied to her just like it applies to us and just like it applies to any human being walking on the planet. So I would encourage you to get, in fact, you know what I'll do is put a link to, because some of you are hearing this for the first time, and this is not an alcohol recovery program. This is a living life program, overcoming program, recovery program, not just from alcohol. So if you've noticed, we rarely tell any war stories about when, hold my beer, because it's not about that. We all know that we have an issue. What we want to know are what are your tools to, survive and to live in life. And we're basically sharing our shared tool of a higher power today. So I'm going to put in the show notes. Actually, I made some notes here. I'm going to put Drop the Rock, The Ripple Effect, All Trails app, and the big book and the 12 Steps book. All right, so that's really all I have to say. So, Josh, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
No, just to your point, I mean, about the show, and what we try to accomplish with the show is just, just because, if you're listening to the show and just because you don't say you're not an alcoholic or whatever, the fact of the matter is that I think every living human being on this earth has some kind of struggle in life. and it could be spiritual, it can be mental, it can be, it can be an addictive type struggle. I mean, we all struggle, but yet I think at the core of it, we're just looking for peace and happiness in life. And we're looking for that solution to be able to have that peace and happiness in life. And I'm not going to go on a soapbox or be preachy, but I guess I just find that there is in the books and material that you're suggesting, I think that is personally, I think that is a program for living that can apply to most people, and like you said, you can replace alcoholism or addiction to, and apply what those books are trying to say about, having, living life and living it in a good, orderly direction and having, kind of a spiritual guidance, so to speak, to be able to have a happy life and to be free of whatever chains are binding you down in life. To have that freedom, those principles that are taught in those books can apply to just about anybody out there with whatever you're struggling with. That's what the great thing about those books and just the program is because it's like, people think of the steps as something that only applies to alcoholics and addicts, and it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
There's a lady in the program. I know you know who she is. She's like a 70-year-old cowgirl.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking. We're trying to get her. You call her for me and get her on the show. She said she would do one. I know you're talking about. Anyway, go on.
Well, I was going to say, if you tell her if she wants me to, I'd love to. Like, I haven't seen her in a while, so. But anyway, like she always says, she wishes everybody would have this program.
Yeah.
And I think she was the first person to ever say that. And then I thought, she's right. She's absolutely right. If everybody had a program like this to help them, in that day-to-day living, imagine just how happy people would be, right? And content, and how much serenity everybody would have. I don't want to sit there and say, like Woodstock, peace, love, and happiness. But I think our world would be a lot better of a place if we all applied the principles of the program and had some kind of program of spirituality to work.
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah, and then there's more than one way to live life on life's terms. There's a lot of, there's the Bible. There's, what's that? The 12 Steps in Buddhism. I have the book in my library. I just can't remember the right name. I don't have to feel like I'm sacrilegious by reading positive stuff if it's Buddhism. I'm getting wrapped around the axle. I'm looking for tools. Yeah. There are books that are not contrary to AA, but can complement AA, or they can be their standalone. 3 steps too, 10 steps too. Whatever works for people. But what I like about these particular 12 steps, first of all, they work for me. Mm-hmm. And really, this is my journey. And if you audience members, if you got your journey, share it with us. I mean, we're happy about that. This show is not exclusive to the 12 steps. We're not that. We're about recovery and overcoming. So, but I would encourage you to find something that works for you. And along the lines of what you just said, Josh, I mean, we would all be happier persons if we had, steps that are I subscribe to the 12 steps because I can't think of a single aspect in our lives that one of those steps doesn't apply to, but for whatever reason, people want to push back, and I'm not going to mention the shows. It's not like I want to give them some kind of shameless plug because it would be shameful. But they push back against, I guess they got some kind of heartburn with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, really, I could have done it using this method. Okay, well, just use your method.
Yeah.
What are you hung up about? I mean, where's the hate and venom coming from? That's kind of toxic. So.
Well, yeah. And that's, yeah, I mean, we could go off on I could go off on a thing. We could talk all day about it, but I was going to say, it's the concept of faith without works is dead. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's, the idea of I find faith in something I read and I want these things to happen for me, but I don't really want to necessarily have to take the action or do the work.
Right.
Unfortunately. And, that's the great thing about the steps. A program like a 12-step program is it teaches you how to take action.
Yeah.
How to do the work. It's simple. And most people, that's to them, it's like, oh, this is too much. This is too complicated. I can't. Right. That program, as an example, is simple and it teaches you how to take that action.
Yeah, good point.
It's kind of one of those I know I always tell people, if you want faith, work the steps. Like if you want to see God work in your life and your faith to grow and to continue to grow, then work the steps.
Yeah.
So it's that you do the work, and you get the faith, as opposed to saying, well, I'm just going to I'm going to wait for me to have faith before I do the works. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really work that way. But
that's like saying, I'm going to wait to get married until I have my career in full. Well, good. When you're 60, you'll get married.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had instances, both I've read them in, different commentaries, or I have experienced them myself, where somebody will say, and it doesn't offend me, but I do laugh at it. And I try not to laugh in the individual's face when they say stuff like, you need to be a real man and just quit. And I want to laugh at it because there's so many ways I could respond to that. But I think of Ralph when he says, if you get a drunken horse thief and you remove the alcohol, what do you have?
A horse thief.
You got a horse thief.
A sober horse thief.
Yes, a sober horse thief.
Right.
So I don't argue controversial. I don't do any of that with any. I don't really have the time for it. I'm not going to debate anything. If somebody's already got their mindset on something, well, go forth and do great things, Yeah. But if they're interested in the way that we do business and live our life, hey, I'll share it, but by no stretch of the imagination am I going to waste somebody's time by arguing with them. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but if it offends you, it offends you. He who argues with a fool.
Yeah. Is a fool.
I just don't want to do it, And he who counsels with himself
is a fool.
So
that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, you got anything else, Josh?
I don't. No, I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Man, brother, anytime. We'll talk about it offline, but there's some other opportunities in the future. We only do shows and release only on Friday because both Redbeard and I have absolutely full plates. This is not a for-profit show, and this is not a non-profit. Any funds that we do get, and I'm always grateful to you people that pitch a buck in a butt bucket. We're not looking for a whole lot more than a buck, honestly, because we just pay for our platform fees, and then we're trying to upgrade some equipment stuff. But if you really, if you've got a big dollar burning a hole in your pocket, and that dollar has more than, 4 zeros, 3 zeros, 2 zeros on it, man, go to 2CYR.org. That's Second Chance Youth Ranch. In fact, check it out online. I don't want to belabor the show anymore with it, but 2CYR.org. Believe me when I tell you, if you love children, that's the place to put your money in today. All right. So you can throw $1 my way, but throw lots of zeros their way.
Great program.
What's that?
Great program.
Oh, man. Every time I watch one of their clips, I'm a grown man that gets emotional.
I love going to the annual banquet. I love watching their videos and all the good works they're doing. So,
oh man, when those, when you imagine, and it breaks my heart when I think about it, but those little kids, that are siblings, right? And the state's going to take them because the parents are not doing the right thing, and they separate. The only thing these children have are each other.
Yep.
And then the state, because they're not equipped to do anything else, they got to take them to rescue them, to save them from this dysfunctional, abusive family. But then they separate these little suckers. Mm-hmm. And God knows they don't know where their siblings went, their brothers and sisters. And 2CYR.org, is that a plug? They take these kids and they keep them together until the families, the parents, either really get it together. Because people are, you and I are redeemable, right?
Exactly.
People are redeemable, or they find couples that they can adopt the entire family of children from.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we go to those banquets, man, I see that stuff. And audience, I know you don't see this, but we're in a studio that's got a lot of cool stuff on the walls, Dr. Pepper stuff, 9/11 stuff, but motivation. But one of the things I have on the wall is this big poster. It says, "Love has no limits. Become a foster parent with Second Chance Youth Ranch." And that's 2CYR.org. All right. I think I've plugged that. That wasn't even in the show notes, dude. I don't know why it crossed my mind, but we let the Spirit guide us, right?
Right. Exactly.
All right, so that's a wrap for today's show. What say you on today's topic? Leave your thoughts and comments on shoutoutfromthepit.com. And remember, if you want to feel good about yourself, like we talked about in step 12, right? Go out and do something for someone else. And finally, as always, folks, you are not alone. If no one's told you they love you today, we love you. So God bless you and have an outstanding American day. This is Bob the Old Rucker and my brother Josh. Peace out.
Later.
I got it so bad.